Balls of Fire, rated PG-13, coming to home video December 21st.
You don't wear a wedding ring?
No, sir.
We don't share money. We don't share credit cards. We don't share names. He didn't like mine, so I let him keep his own.
On the next Donahue, marriage ain't what it used to be.
Well, I guess I was kind of naive because I really didn't understand what an open marriage was.
So we designed it around what we thought would be a good marriage.
Are designer marriages the next big trend?
If this catches on, man, I mean, what's left?
Designer marriages? Next Donahue at 4 on Channel 4.
Governor Cuomo's newest strategy for fighting drugs tomorrow.
You've stolen this house.
How can you steal a house? This is my uncle's house.
Is he in rock and roll?
No! Well, look at the big Yo, man, look at this. Titties, orange juice, beer. Will you go put your trunks on and get in this pool?
I want you out of this pool and out of this house in 7 minutes. You're still a goddamn police officer, for sake. You're gonna get us all in deep.
Well, I love it when you talk dirty. Get your mad ass in this pool with me.
Axel, get out of the goddamn pool!
I told you the deck was slippery.
Thanks for staying up later. John Ashton is with us now. Was it really you toppling into the pool in Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Yes, actually. I did it 6 times because we had to keep getting different camera angles, and we had to try to make it look as real as possible because we knew the whole audience was going to go, okay, Taggart's going to go into the pool, so we tried to make it look as real as possible, that it was an accident.
The Sergeant Taggart role was really a breakthrough for you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, Marty Brest, the director, really gave me a shot with that. I had 5 auditions to get that role, and they wanted somebody totally different than me to play the role. And I had a general audition with a casting director, and I was doing a play called True West at the time with Ed Harris. And she was from New York, and she was very into the theater, and I had a meeting with her, and then I met with Marty, and then I met with Marty and Jerry Bruckheimer, who was the producer, and then I had another meeting, and all those meetings were when Sylvester Stallone was going to do the film. And then the film was rewritten when Stallone dropped out of the film, and then it became an Eddie Murphy film, and I had 2 more meetings to be able to work with Judge and Eddie and stuff. They really wanted a blonde-haired, square-jawed, young, real Beverly Hills-looking guy for it.
That's pretty much you, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, maybe when I was about 12. No, but, no, and all of a sudden, Marty just said, I want this guy to play it, and had a lot of fun doing it, and Marty, I really thank him he really gave me a big break, and, you know, I had been in Hollywood for almost 20 years doing plays and little theater and doing stuff, and it was the same old story, you know. On the set one day, Marty said, you're really terrific. Where have you been all this time? I said, Marty, I've been in town, man. You know, it's like, I've been doing plays, I've been doing this.
Obviously, it was rewritten, but how do you imagine it would have been? What kind of movie would it have been if Sylvester Stallone had done it rather than Eddie Murphy?
Probably would have been Rambo Blows Up Beverly Hills.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much.
Toyota dealer has factory incentives worth up to $1,400. Deals like these won't last.
Now here we come to the key point in the interview, and that would be item 1C.
1C.
Yeah, this would be 1C on Fred Rothenberg's research. And Fred is such a thorough producer. I don't know whether he actually pulled this out of the memory bank because he has a fond recollection of it himself, or he read it somewhere, but apparently there was a motion picture in the mid-'70s starring a gentleman named John Ashton called The Private Afternoons of Pamela Mann.
Mm-hmm. Not me.
Not you?
Not me. Honest, it's not me. I was doing theater in L.A. I had just won the Drama Critics Circle Award for a French farce that I had done called A Flea in Her Ear. And the agent that I had at the time called me, and I was like a part-time bartender in the daytime, and I'd do my plays at night. And he called me at the bar in the afternoon, and he said, when were you in New York last? And I said, I don't know, a couple of months ago or something. And he said, did you do a movie while you were there called The Private Afternoons of Pamela Mann? And I said, no, I didn't. And he said, well, there's a review in Variety today. So I got the Variety, and I read it, and sure enough, it was John Ashton, spelled exactly the same way. And I called the union, the Screen Actors Guild, and I said, look, there's some guy's using my name, and he's doing porno. I think it was a porno film. I never did see it, but it sounded like a porno film.
Does Variety review porno movies?
Maybe it was a porno movie that I guess became an R movie or something. I really don't know. And I called the union, and they said, well, it's a non-union film, and we can't protect you. I said, then what am I paying my union dues for? You're supposed to protect me. So they said, there's nothing we can do. It's a non-union film. So I called.
Especially if the guy had a bad full-body makeup job. You don't want people thinking that's
I mean,
you.
if the guy was really kind of okay.
You know, if there's a lot of cellulite or something happening, you don't want people associating that with you, John, really.
And in those days, I had a pretty good body. No. Anyway, I ended up calling Bill Edwards at Variety, who was the theater critic over there, who knew my work and had voted for me for the Drama Critics Award. And I said, Bill, this guy using my name, and I don't want people to think I'm doing porno movies. So he said, well, we'll correct it. And they put a little blurb in Variety the next day that it wasn't me, that I was still on the legitimate stage. And
that's real. That really helps.
Everybody saw that.
John Ashton not doing porno movies. Ashton vehemently denies appearing in porno movies.
Exactly.
That clears everything up right there.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody saw that. Because everybody reads Variety every day, don't they?
What about your role on Dallas? Is it almost like doing, you know, they glibly refer to it as a nighttime soap. Is it like doing a soap opera where you can really ham it up and it's...
Yeah, it really kind of was. You know, I did it the first year. That was 11 years ago. Or 12. As a matter of fact, I think it's 12 years ago now. And I did it, the first one I did was as a guest star. Actually, Lorimar wanted me to do a TV series called The Wilds of 10,000 Islands. And I told him I really didn't want to do it because I didn't want to work with snakes and stuff down in Florida. And anyway, that went back and forth, and finally Dallas came along, and Lorimar said, you want to go do this thing down in Dallas? And I said, sure. And I did one of them just as a guest star, and then they liked the character, and they brought it back, and I ended up doing 7 shows. And I did the last show of the first season and the first show of the second season.
You killed Tina Louise, they
killed Tina Louise, yeah. And went to jail and then kidnapped JR's baby. And I mean, it really is kind of a fun show to do. It really is. And Larry's a fun guy.
The only thing that's missing is, you know, being like Snidely Whiplash and swirling the ends of your mustache.
I had this huge 10-gallon hat that I looked absolutely
Willie Joe Gar you were, right?
Willie Joe Gar.
How did Tina Louise get off Gilligan's Island?
I think her agent did something with her contract.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah.
Finally got that note in the bottle and sent the helicopter.
She was having a hard time finding tea on the island, so her agent did like a renegotiation job, and they sent a plane over and got her. They left Bob Denford off there.
Alan Hale, still there, the friendly skipper.
Yeah. Alan's a great guy. I played golf with Alan. He's a really funny guy. And he still wears a skipper hat while he's playing golf.
The greatest thing about that picture is they're marooned there for 3 years. All right?
It's true. I'm not kidding you. He still wears the skipper hat.
And Jim Backus, whose name I forget in Gilligan's Island, right? Jim Backus and his wife are still dressed exactly the same way. He's still got an ascot. She's still got pearls. Exactly. And this scientist guy, whoever he was, the straight guy, a perfectly good-looking guy, he hasn't made a move on Tina Louise 3 years on a deserted island, and he hasn't laid a hand on Tina Louise.
I always worried about that. That was something
You know, I think that was a breakthrough concept. They were trying to tell us something.
And then the other girl, who was the other girl? The young brunette.
Yeah, she was a nice-looking girl, but I don't know what her name was.
She was always by herself, too, and I couldn't figure that out. Bob Denver was, well, you know, whatever.
Go figure.
We'll
be right back.
It's called Drixoral, a powerful 12-hour cold medicine that at one time you couldn't buy without a doctor's prescription. Today you can. Drixoral works just as hard against colds as it always did. You just don't have to work so hard to get it. 12-hour prescription strength Drixoral. You don't need a prescription, just a cold. Now Drixoral also comes in a 12-hour non-drowsy formula.
tell you about a great way to meet new people. It's called the Love Line, and you use it by picking up your phone. When you call, you'll hear real people talking about themselves and what they're looking for in another person. Best of all, you'll get the real names and phone numbers from people who want to hear from you. So no more excuses, okay? Meet someone special. Call the Love Line. I think it'll be really good for you.
Call the Love Line. Dial 1-900-909-4600. $2 the first minute, 45 cents each additional. Adults only, please.
Who's got the look? Yeah, yeah. You got the look.
Jordache Basics.
Now, do it.
Jordache.
Hold those cards and letters. The other woman on Gilligan's Island was Dawn Wells.
Dawn Wells.
And Eric Eisenstein behind the camera there tells me that, of course, Jim Backus's character was Thurston B. Howell. Was it the second? The third?
Third, I think.
Just yell, Eric. Third. Consensus is Thurston B. Howell.
I think it was the third.
The third. Before you came over here to tape, you were having lunch over at Mickey Mantle's restaurant. That's your boyhood idol, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, and I was a big Yankee fan, and, you know, when I played Little League, I wore number 7. I mean, it's all that stuff, you know. Even before I played Little League, and just my mom made a Yankee outfit with number 7 on it, and I don't have very many idols in the world, I really don't, but my two are Mickey Mantle and Jack Nicklaus.
Isn't that an interesting thing, though? Because, you know, you've worked with Robert De Niro. You worked with Eddie Murphy. You've been on a TV show like Dallas, which in a commercial sense is tremendously successful. And that involves some of the biggest names in contemporary entertainment. But like me, it's one thing to be around somebody who you might respect or admire because of the present level of their work.
Right.
It's another thing to come face to face with somebody who mattered to you when you were 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, there's
no comparison psychologically between those two things.
And another thing is that these are people that are in my craft, you know? I mean, you know, Bobby's an actor. I mean, there were so many actors when we had auditions for Midnight Run that were just absolutely petrified to go and read with De Niro. Because, I mean, De Niro was just like it as an actor. And Judge Reinhold read for one of the roles, and he came in and he was just like petrified. And I said, hey, look, you know, he's an actor, I'm an actor. And I think I'm a pretty good actor. I said, so, you know, we're just going to go work together. And I went into the audition, and Bobby was there, and he loved Beverly Hills Cop, and he had the same admiration for me that I had for him, and we're looking at each other as two actors. And we just grabbed the script, and we said, let's go for it, and we did. And, I mean, we hit it off like that. And it was, you know, I found out later when I left the room, they said, don't read anybody else for Dorfler. I mean, he's it.
On a different subject, Hardball, I was interested to learn, at least loosely, the two cops are patterned after not real-life cops, but after Pete Rose, pre-gambling problems, at least pre-public knowledge of the gambling problems, and Jim McMahon.
Tartikoff sat down at lunch one day and said, what would happen?
Get both a low auto insurance rate and